Mac, I think I might owe you and the people an apology.
Oh, really? What's this now?
As I was cutting my fourth or fifth straight clip that had me with a prop, I
Uh-huh.
said to myself, am I fucking Carrot Top? For this audio podcast,
Right.
why have I consistently, over the past 2 months, brought in props?
Yeah, no, it's a great question to ponder as a fellow who edits his own videos and has to watch himself for hours every week. Um, I'm sure the percentage of listeners that watch our YouTube videos enjoy it, maybe. I'm sure you know what? I bet it's 50-50 amongst them. I'm not even going to say they fully enjoy it. So you really, like, if you run a risk benefit analysis of will the prop help or hurt the pod, it's a major lean towards hurt.
So I'm thinking, for now at least, we retire Carrot Top Goo.
Okay. All right. Look at that. It's like the second day of summer. Here we go. New goo.
New goo. Props are back in the bin. When we eventually fall off again, I'll bring out the watermelon and I'll smash it with a hammer. But for now, let's just talk. Let's just fucking jive.
Do you think you could eat a whole watermelon?
Yes. I think I could eat a whole everything. I don't think anything could stop me if I was in some kind of an eating competition.
Well, you say that.
I'm a bottomless pit right now.
I've been in one eating competition. I came in like 7th or 8th. It was a hot dog eating contest.
I was asking if it was pie, hair pie.
That would be a good one.
Because that does generally take hours because
yes,
you're trying to figure things out.
Right. You're pressing buttons and it's not really going.
You're just jamming.
How many chicken nuggets do you think you could eat in a sitting?
I think that because you know how when you go to Chick-fil-A, you can order those 50 nuggets?
Yep.
I think I've possibly eaten most of those in a 50 order.
I was thinking McDonald's nuggets just because it's like the most available. I wonder what would be some of those Chick-fil-A ones are real small though. It's like popcorn chicken.
Oh, they're so small. Don't even cut.
But, well,
okay, fine, chicken nuggets then.
Well, because the nuggets are consistent. It's
okay.
a consistent size.
Oh, yeah, because they form the nuggets out of chicken
it's a mold.
I've eaten, well, like, back when we used to, drink and eat at night and whatnot, like a 20 piece and then a couple burgers. So I don't know. Probably
I've definitely ordered 2 20 pieces before.
Ooh.
I don't know if I've finished 2 20 pieces, but this is also after a night of drinking and eating like fries and shit. I think if I was on a somewhat empty stomach and hadn't drank 15 beers, I think I could get 50. I think I could get to 50.
5 cheeseburgers.
Definitely 40.
4 bong hits.
40 to 50 would be the big hurdle. That would be like a mental obstacle that you'd have to overcome. Because at that point, you're just like chewing and the nuggets are like already coming up. Like your esophagus is filled with nuggets already.
Look, not to brag, but I only eat 1 meal a day. I eat 1 meal a day. So I pretty much just starve myself from morning until dinner. And then I eat more than the proper amount of food that someone is supposed to eat for those 24 hours in that 1 meal. So
I am trying to eat a little bit more during the day. But I'm eating pretty healthy the last 3 weeks or so. I'm down 1 belt notch. So that's big.
Give it up, folks.
It's skinny boy summer, I guess.
Give it up for Mac.
We'll see how it goes. I'm enjoying it so far.
One goo, 3, yeah. Goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Entertainment.
I'm Goo.
And I am a Mac.
And we are the Mac and Goo program. We bring you weight loss.
Yeah, it's a get fit camp here at the Mac and Goo program.
Step on the scale. Step off the scale.
Step off the scale. Today, we are bringing you a little mid-season or a little mid-set break with the boys having just aired their 4th episode of 8 this past week, of course, releasing 3 in week 1. We'll also do a minute or 2 of The Acolyte after we do that because Goo hasn't watched those 4 episodes also at their mid-set break. I have, but it's more of a bone to pick with with you people out there. But anyways, The Boys season 4 is 4 episodes in of their 8 episodes, and we are at a point in the show where I'm not going to complain what we've gotten, but we are at a point where we have to get to getting. You know, we got to ramp it up here these last 4 episodes.
Are we chasing our own tails right now?
A little bit,
Okay.
and I'm starting to feel like there's a chance. Now, again, let me preface this by saying The Boys is the best show on television by a country mile right now. I don't care what anyone says. There is nothing like The Boys on television. There's nothing that's ever been like The Boys on television. It is consistently phenomenal. It is consistently head and shoulders above everything else. All of that said,
it sucks.
We are dealing with roughly the same storyline now for 4.5 seasons or 3.5 seasons. And we need to come to some sort of finality. Now we know there's an end in sight.
Yes.
Season 5 is the last season. But I also feel like we could do some other stuff while also bringing one of our main storylines to an end at this season, maybe. But I fear this is serving more as a table setter for season 5.
So number one, I think the reason why we decided to go with this episode, middle of the season, we generally don't do this, but we kind of just had another big tentpole Homelander episode. So kind of a good jumping off point as well. And I think I'm also at the point now, like you just said, I love this show, but I think I only care about half of the storylines right now. There's a lot of storylines, and some of them seem very repetitive to what we've already done.
Well, the whole Victoria Newman thing has been like a 3-season tease now, and there's been absolutely zero payoff with it other than the occasional head popping. And so we really have to make some strides in that storyline, especially. And that's especially because she's also tied into Gen V. Like, she's tied into everything, and truly nothing has happened with her yet.
We got a little piece.
She's been featured more this season.
Should we just do spoilers right now?
Yeah, no, this is going to be spoiler.
Okay, so first off, in the first episode, we do see that her daughter is also a soup, but more of a monster? Question mark?
Yeah, she's got tentacle mouth.
Yeah.
It's not appeasing at all.
No, not at all. And then also, Butcher shoots her right in the head and she's fine.
Yeah, I had to watch that scene twice because I didn't believe what I thought I saw, that he shoots her in the head like from the side, and she's totally fine. Now, we have seen, of course, we now know at the end of Gen V season 1, if you haven't seen that, you're missing out. Maria Moreau has the same power set as Victoria Newman, and part of that comes with like healing because they can control blood, and if you can control blood, you can control clotting and all sorts of other stuff. She can pop heads because she can control blood. So it's really, you can almost do what you want body wise with her and just believe it. But she ate that bullet and nothing at all happened.
Yeah.
Did it bounce off her because it like went in the truck too?
Yeah, did we hear like the bullet like cling anywhere?
I don't know. I don't
twice. Okay,
that's why I also like, because they don't show the muzzle really.
Yeah,
and so it was almost like a warning shot too.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he just shot it by her head. I don't know. I was confused by that scene.
May I tell you the storylines that I am still very intrigued by?
Okay.
First off, anything Homelander.
Yep.
Homelander, when he's on there, I don't care who else is on the screen. I'm like, what is going on with this guy? And then also, when he's not on the screen, I'm saying to myself, what is Homelander up to?
Yeah.
Every single time. I'm so into Butcher's storyline as well. I love, and also, he really is the only comic relief left on the show right now, because everyone has really gotten very straightened out with what they're
Butcher
doing.
And Homelander.
I like that. I'm beginning to get into Huey's dad's storyline with the V going into him. I'm liking that. And then I'm into Ryan. I want to see what's happening with Bruce.
I'm intrigued by
Ryan. It's those three.
Yeah. They're really trying to round out Frenchie and Kimiko this season. We got a lot of Frenchie last season too.
Yeah.
I could give a fuck about either of their stories. I like those characters. I do not care about more.
Kimiko though has so I just said that Butcher's really been the only comedic relief. I think that she's been pretty funny too, especially like she can't or she does. She grows her arm back really slowly, or but also with her now, so she is just, and maybe has she always been this way, where it doesn't matter what you do to her, you can explode her from the inside, she's fine?
I think she's getting stronger. I think
Okay.
like her powers are growing and she's mastered them. Um, some of the humor, admittedly, too, with the boys is just like, um, setting and background
Yeah.
stuff. Like, not really our forefront characters bringing the humor, and it's definitely been quite topical so far this season. And that obviously is bothersome to a certain subset of viewers, but I'm okay with it. This show is set in a pseudo real world. Like they've referenced real things other than politics as well. So it's the nature of it.
Is Firecracker too much like, Stormfront?
Uh Maybe not enough. I don't know what the fuck Firecracker's
No,
powers
what I'm
are.
saying though is like the storyline with Firecracker is very similar to Stormfront, where she's building up this audience and these people behind Homelander by riling them up in very similar ways, either by the infomercials, using social media, maybe not as much with podcasting or like the complete far right wing type, but it's very similar.
I guess, yeah, maybe the followers of the two are very similar, but the way they're going about it and the characters are very, very different. Like, uh, what the hell was Aya Cash's character? Stormfront.
Yeah.
Stormfront was an equal to Homelander, and in some ways maybe superior as like a leader or getting people to follow her. Firecracker is just capitalizing on the Homelander crowd, and I think that's an important distinction to make. I think uh, Stormfront was bringing more crazies in, and I think Firecrackers is just like sort of molding the crazies that are already there. I don't think she's really bringing more people in, but they've sort of used that part, bringing people in part for Sister Sage. So they've like kind of split that from the Stormfront responsibilities, and so those are obviously our two biggest season 4 additions so far: Sister Sage and Firecracker. Firecracker, first of all, oy vey, very attracted to her whole thing.
Redheads, am I right?
Her powers are borderline non-existent. We've like seen nothing from her, so
It's
I don't
getting
know
people
exactly what
riled
she can
up.
do.
That's what her power
Yeah.
is.
She's also a pedophile, confirmed. So that's
Confirmed
a nice
pedophile.
addition they threw in there. Sister Sage, her powers are clear, but also unclear.
So
So
she
it's
is
her
the
brain.
smartest person in the world.
Yep.
And then also,
Her
she
brain is
can,
so powerful it can regenerate
right.
itself.
So she does to relax. She gives herself a frontal transorbital lobotomy.
There you go. That's some good words right there.
I
Credit
did
to
a
you.
video on it in
Okay.
college, so
All right.
I gave one to a melon. I used a steak skewer. I used a little mallet, and
And they would go in through the eye back in the day?
yeah, you got to go in. Yeah, it's right in through the eye.
Oh, God. Yeah, so I guess her powers are all from the neck up, which is interesting because clearly she's capitalized on that, but also she's very mortal in some aspects
You know what?
too.
I could go the rest of my life not seeing ever again.
Hmm.
Someone licking like French fry grease off of their rubber gloves. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're getting like a wetsuit flavor involved there.
Seeing the Deep just do that. I
I
didn't
did
need
take
it.
note of that.
I did not need that. Also, I am very happy that the octopus is gone. I had enough of the octopus.
Yeah, I don't care for the Deep's gills either. I don't mind not seeing those. So that's him and Sage are like oddly a good pairing.
So
It's
I
just,
think yes,
it works really well.
I think this saves him a bit because I was getting over him a bit. Also with A Train as well, but A Train now is playing a bit more into the story.
Yeah, so our current roster of the 7 is obviously Homelander. You have the Deep and A Train that have been there the whole time.
Well,
And
they've been
then-
in and out. The Deep
Well,
was
yeah,
sent,
they're roughly
the
been
Deep was
members
sent to
whole
the
time.
miners.
Yeah,
He's back now.
but they didn't really replace him. So Noir is just a guy now, which is like it's fun to see that the guy
Okay,
that was
so
playing Noir just gets to.
I
Act
know I've
now.
already said like, okay, this is the comedic relief. No, this guy is actually really, really
you're
funny.
right.
Where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
doesn't know what his character is supposed to be doing, and he's constantly asking questions. And like,
He's asking for notes.
the only job you have is not talk. Stop fucking asking us questions.
And he's also like very okay with the murdering, so it's a pretty funny character at this point. So it's A-Train, Noir, Homelander. That's 3. You add Sage and Firecracker. That's 4 and 5. Who else do we have? Sage, Firecracker, Deep, Homelander is 4.
Black
A-Train
Noir.
is 5.
Black Noir.
Black Noir is 6. So I don't think Starlight's part of the 7 anymore.
No.
So we have a vacant spot. And we have Noir kind of not there. So I am wondering if Sam and Kate from Gen V are sort of going to fill those 2 spots by the end of the season. So you brought up Huey's father a couple minutes ago, and I'm simultaneously intrigued and almost over this storyline already. So we see at the end of this episode, Compound V goes into his pick line there, and there's gonna be something that happens there. Like he's either gonna like get powers, or maybe the V kills him.
With these scenarios, what is the best thing that can happen? / do I really care if he becomes a soup type of thing?
Yeah, there's no real good outcome there for me that's gonna make me care a ton. So I don't really know what the end is gonna be there. Also, a new character this season, Goo, has been Huey's mom. She fucking sucks. I can't stand her.
Hey, man. Tough life.
But we also saw in that scene where they're in the hospital room with Huey's father, played by Simon Pegg. Huey put the V away. Did she give him V?
Is she a pickpocket? Did she take the V from him, or did she already have V? I also did like the scene.
Works for Vought, right?
Possibly. I did like the scene of A-Train in Homelander's apartment going through all of his stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Fuck, why does he have a giant jar of gray pubes?
And then Ashley's just there leaving floaters.
Yeah.
From episode 4, Goo,
Yeah.
Billy the Butcher ends up in quite a predicament in that trailer, in Firecracker's trailer. How the fuck did that fellow get exploded? What in the world happened in that scene? It's unexplained.
So what has grown in Butcher's body from all the V that he has taken?
We have this little worm flying around his neck and his head.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that taking over for him? And does he still have powers, or did someone off screen explode the fella?
No, I think it's the worm.
You think the worm took over?
I think the worm it's both parasitic but also protective, maybe? Like it's draining the life from him, but it's also protecting the body that it is taking the life from.
Yeah,
is that a thing? Is that a real thing in the animal kingdom?
It might be. It might be. And they've also gone out of their way to show the worm swimming around in there 7 or 8 times. So
yeah,
they're clearly alluding to that, and maybe that is what the answer is there. Back to the Gen V people for a second. So Sam and Kate were teased in the preseason trailer. We haven't seen them yet, but again, 4 episodes left. I'm sure they're going to pop up pretty soon. Do you think we'll see Marie at all? Because Marie is just as powerful as anyone. So I wonder if they're going to tease her maybe at the end of the season, or will they save her for season 5?
So I think, knowing that we have just season 5 left, they are going to hold off on Soldier Boy, Maeve, and then maybe Marie.
Okay. Yeah, it's mildly disappointing, but also, again, since we know that it's ending in 5 seasons, hopefully season 5 is fucking incredible. They're also teasing the shit out of Webweaver every episode, a character we have never seen through 3.5 seasons, but presumably he's a Spider-Man-like character.
Ooh.
And I have to think that he's going to be on the boys' side to sort of even things out a little bit. That's my guess.
Let me ask you a question here. Now, I love Homelander. You love Homelander. Most intriguing possible character, I think, maybe on television right now. And at the end of season 5, if we were to end this show, do you want him to be brutally murdered in the funnest way possible? Or do you want him to murder everyone else, and then we have a Twilight Zone-like episode or scenario where now he has no one to heap praise upon him, and now he realizes, oh no, what have I done?
I think it's very clear what's going to happen. I don't know, maybe this is just me. I think it's very clear that Ryan is going to be influenced at some point by the death of Butcher and maybe at the hands of Homelander before this cancer gets him. And ultimately, Ryan's going to kill Homelander. That seems like the only outcome for Homelander. Now, maybe I'm off base there, but that seems very fitting that would happen. Because unless Newman can kill him, which would be not very satisfying, I don't see how you bring Homelander's life to a close other than Ryan killing him.
I think it could go the other way. I finally have time to read, but my glasses broke.
So that would be epic if at the end of this series, Homelander is still alive and he kills everyone. I would like that a lot too. But if Homelander is going to die in this series, it has to be at the hands of Ryan. I think it's the thing that makes the most sense and also would probably be the most satisfying.
I mean, I also need them because I think that the two out of the three season finales have ended in real grand, just great fashion. Like season one, I loved the final showdown between Butcher and Homelander is like, oh, you have a hostage that you think I love? Psst, I don't give a shit. Fuck you. You're stupid. Blast. And then last year, that like 4-way, 5-way showdown was awesome.
It was so sick. The second half of season 3 was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And so in comparison, the start of season 4 has been kind of slow. Still great, but action wise, you're just getting like a couple minutes an episode. You don't have these big fights yet.
Can I ask you a question here?
Sure.
Do you fully understand what the primary objective is right now, or what the mission is of what the boys are trying to do?
Right. So we have essentially like 4 battles, a 4-sided effort here. So you have the boys, but you also have so the boys and Butcher have
Butcher's working off on his own,
simultaneously some interest, but also Butcher has sole interests.
Is both a square and a rectangle.
Butcher is the only one from the boys that really wants Homelander dead right now, which is odd, number one. But the boys were working also against Newman. But Newman and Homelander are sort of working against each other, but Homelander doesn't quite know that yet. I also need to ask the question, and this might be my own ignorance, and maybe I missed this. At what point did everyone figure out Newman was the head popper? There was no reveal that I recall. So obviously Huey figured it out, and so the boys know.
Right. So the boys know.
How does the president know?
The president knows because because the president is working with Starlight's organization. Starlight knows. Maybe Starlight.
Yeah, but why would they tell the president that?
Because they
try to get that bill through.
Because they don't want him to choose her as the vice president? ?
Yeah, it's a weird motivation there. It just seems like too many people now know she's the head popper, and somehow the general public doesn't know. At a certain point, that's gonna rear its head. I'm pretty sure. Like you mentioned, Soldier Boy and Maeve, they probably won't pop up at the end of this season, but I think the possibility exists that does happen. You also have not only Butcher versus Homelander, you have the Starlight versus Homelander thing, but that's more ideologies. Those two really aren't clashing at all. That was primarily what was happening last season.
Yeah.
That's still like a background thing. And that's where like Homelander has Sage, Firecracker.
And now it's also it's more followers versus followers.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess Starlight. So I guess the boys' main thing up until this point has to maybe prevent Newman from getting power, and that has now fallen through, I think, with this latest episode. I also think it's pretty clear A-Train's going to flip, right?
Yeah.
So A-Train's going to be kind of rogue, helping out the boys, but not quite a member. And then again, Sam and Kate are going to play into things.
Well, then I also do think that once he fully flips, he'll be killed.
Yeah, maybe there. We are going to have to lose some players from our roster here, our main roster, because to this point, we've only lost side characters for most of the series.
Are we sure about that?
Yeah.
Sure about that? You're right, because even
We've lost Stormfront and Noir.
You're right. Shit.
Yeah, so that's also like a thought, I think, in the back of a lot of people's heads. We need to lose some people at some point. I mean, maybe all in season 5. The Ryan thing is obviously the most intriguing thing that I think won't be final until the end of the series. He obviously has to pick a side at some point, and he seems pretty 50-50. So that is going to be, I think, predominantly like the main plot of season 5. But also like Newman's still going to be lingering through the rest of this season, at least all the way into season 5. So that'll be lingering as well. At some point, Homelander's going to figure out that Newman's the head popper. And I wonder what that confrontation is going to be like.
Yeah, but he knows that she's a soup, though.
Does he know?
Yes, because he had that conversation before the Save Christmas Ice Spectacular, where he's like, you don't need the other guy, just run as a soup and like that type of stuff.
Oh, does he know her powers then? Or maybe,
I think so.
Maybe he's not afraid of her powers because he doesn't think they might both be like invulnerable. We don't have an answer for that. It's sort of a rock and a hard place there. I wonder if maybe they team up at some point. That's lingering out there. And the main carryover, or so we thought, from Gen V was this soup virus that hypothetically will affect soups and soups only and kill soups. We find out right now at the moment it's not enough to kill a Homelander, but that doesn't mean like it won't hurt regular soups. So I think that's going to play up in this final 4 episodes too. I think we might see one of the main villains or main heroes come down with that and either die or become pretty frail as a result of that.
Yeah, and that also might just get out by accident, because I do think that they are trying to hold it for as long as possible until it can kill Homelander, because that's all they really care about.
Right, and it's almost like an ends justify the means thing, even if they release it by mistake, because the virus is going to have to adapt to become stronger to kill Homelander, if it even can. So I think that happens before the end of the season. But we are really not a break-even point. I don't want to say that, but 3.5 seasons in of essentially the same plot lines of Butcher versus Homelander, the boys versus Homelander, Homelander controlling all of Vought and the Seven. There hasn't been much movement there. It's still back and forth, back and forth.
If Homelander wasn't so interesting and like constantly evolving as a character, it wouldn't be good. But he is, and it's still great.
I totally agree. Homelander is still, and every scene he's in completely steals the show. And I enjoy every fucking
I asked
second
my
of
wife
it.
after episode 4, after that amazing performance in episode 4, I said, what do you think of the episode? And she's like, well, this, and this. And then with Homelander, like, I'm just so uneasy watching him now. And I'm like,
that's a good word.
Yes.
Uneasy.
Yes.
That's a perfect word.
Perfect. And I loved him going down there with the fucking Fudgy the Whale. And then just slowly, not picking everyone off, but just the people that he felt like, even just, well, the guy with the oven, that's a little much. Obviously, you want to kill the guy that turned the oven up on you. But the other guy who was nice to him for the most part and just made that one little comment about the squirt. He's like, you got to jerk off in front of all these people now.
Yeah, so we saw at the conclusion of season 3, he reached a new level of villainy by just laser eyeing that guy right at the end of the season.
And realizing that he can do it.
Yeah, and so now he's stepped that up this season, just killing anyone he feels like. The laser eyes through the dick hole was brutal. And then she's like, just
because he couldn't get hard. But to be fair, though, when you can't get it up,
who can get hard in a situation like that?
No, but don't you feel like you just want to be lasered off at that point? Like, oh no, I had too many drinks.
I think it's a very rare person to be able to get hard in that fucking situation. But speaking of that lab that he's in,
being a person that would just get that hard immediately, you're like, oh, this is my exact thing. Yes.
In that lab that he's in at the end, didn't we see the elevator coming back down as a tease? So who was coming down at the end of the episode?
I didn't. Did we?
I thought the elevator. I thought we just saw
the thing going up with him covered in blood.
Oh man, so him going up. Maybe I was half paying attention. I wonder what the ramification of that is, because of course he can do whatever.
Nothing.
Well, of course he can do whatever the hell he wants there, but you're going to start to have Vought and the members that be, the powers that be, probably try to leverage a lot of shit against Homelander.
Well, we haven't seen
he starts taking out their assets.
We haven't seen Giancarlo Stanton in not Giancarlo Stanton, Giancarlo Esposito. We haven't seen Giancarlo Stanton in a
Let's say
while.
Mike
He,
Stanton.
he's on the IL right now. We haven't seen him play in a little while. Giancarlo Esposito was, a big player on
Stan
this show
Edgar.
for a while. Yeah, and
Yeah.
now he's nowhere to be found.
I don't think he's coming back. That's my best guess there.
Mm.
But we do need Homelander lacks an equal currently. We had it with Soldier Boy last season. We had it with Stan Edgar for a little bit. We had it with Stormfront for a little bit. So one of these characters we're currently dealing with, maybe it's Newman, is going to have to ascend to that spot. Maybe Stormfront's Starlight's powers grow to that point. But maybe it's Marie Moreau. Yeah. We're missing like the main. We're just missing his equal currently, and so maybe that's what this season is going to culminate in. Goo, before I forget it, the Will Ferrell cameo in episode 2, episode 3 fucking killed me. It was so good.
That was good. Speaking of, so episode 2, just a couple highlights, if you will, was the fella there that could tear himself into a new person, and then we got a giant naked fight. I did hear that
Splinter or something his name was.
Yes, that those were all CGI penises.
CGI cocks.
Right, because you can't just assume that they're all going to look the same at different times of the day. So you got to have them all look the same.
Was eating his own asshole at one point.
I didn't want to bring that up. You did, though. That was Max like, hey, when are we going to talk about this on the show?
That whole like fan expo thing was pretty funny. I enjoyed those scenes quite a bit. I am, again, this show is the best show on television, but we've kind of run the gamut with all the distractions and bells and whistles and funny things and gruesome things we can do. I do want to see some finality to some of these characters in the next 4 episodes.
Oh, I also liked Ryan's first save.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
We saw in episode 3 as well the Butcher Ryan scene where they're just talking, playing some foosball. He didn't give him the cookies. I'm blanking on the actor right now, but the one that's working with Butcher to try and get Ryan away from him. What do you think? What do you think?
Mother's Milk?
No. The other guy there, the one that always, what's his name? The one from The Walking Dead.
I never watched The Walking Dead, so I can't help you with that one.
He's a tall guy.
Negan, the guy that played Negan. I know who you're talking about now. Yeah. Yes, that guy. I do know that guy. So, yeah, we're also dealing with this, the fact that Homelander is currently having visions of Becca, his now dead wife. And so you have to call into question every scene he is in with just one other person. So was that guy real? That's
that'd be a nice little twist. I like that.
So that's that whole thing going on too. I wonder how that plays out. Because you're right, we haven't seen him in 2 episodes now. So what the hell is that guy doing? Maybe he is an imagination guy.
I think that we've kind of touched on most things here. I will ask you some questions real quick, Mac. Where do you rank Homelander up against just comic book villains in general right now?
Comic book villains. Okay.
Oh, so, on screen, not just in the comics, obviously.
So movies and television?
Movies and television.
Oh, man. So movies... Oh, I'm going to forget some.
Okay, I'll give you a second here. I think television-wise, comic book show-wise, I would say him and Kingpin have been the only ones that have captivated me for more than a season or 2. I know that you have down here that Kilgrave, I do agree, awesome in Jessica Jones season 1.
Yeah, I would have Kilgrave above Kingpin.
Oh, okay.
But I would have them both substantially lower than Homelander. I think Homelander's in a if you're talking television comic book villains, Homelander's number 1.
Can you think back to season 1 when you thought he was the hero and then he stepped onto the plane and he's like, all right, we're going to leave these people be.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you lift the plane? There's no ground for me to stand on.
For those people that hadn't read the comics and just seen the trailers for the show, you thought for sure Homelander was going to be the Superman type of character, and he was not.
What a great scene-setting scene right there. Like the show-setting scene of like, this is the guy that we have here.
Movies, obviously, you have Thanos and the Joker. Everyone brings up Killmonger.
We have such a
body of work from Homelander. you would almost have to rank him in that conversation of like Mount Rushmore of comic book villains.
I think he'd have claim possibly to that fourth one, and that's me just completely forgetting every movie I've ever seen.
So who would your third be? Because you'd have Joker and
Killmonger.
Thanos.
So
Killmonger, okay.
and I would flip Joker and Thanos. I know that you have Thanos 1. So
I have Thanos 1. I think I would have Homelander 2 at this point.
okay, but so I'm going Thanos, Joker 1, 2. I think that's undisputed. But
Okay.
then I do think Killmonger is so good in that Black Panther movie. And then I don't really think anyone else. I think he'd be bunched up. Like, I think you'd have like him and like 6 or 7 other characters that could fight for that fourth spot.
I think you're kind of underselling the body of work we have from Homelander. And that's the reason why I have Thanos at number 1, like with a bullet, is because we got 2 full movies with like fucking unbelievably badass Thanos on top of the breadcrumbs we got leading up to that. Joker gets hurt, as does Killmonger. These one-offs, as amazing as they are going to get hurt when compared to Homelander, who has in 3-4 weeks 4 seasons of work of being arguably the best character on television. The Boys started in 2019, and you could argue Homelander is like easily the best character on television.
I think he's great, but I also want to say for Heath Ledger's Joker, for being in a movie that is filled with amazing performances, people barely talk about the other performances from that movie.
No, I mean, Heath Joker's Ledger.
Start that again.
Heath Ledger's Joker is obviously going to always be talked about in the all-time greats. I'm saying I think you're underselling Homelander's contribution at this point. 4 seasons of him literally stealing every scene he's in. At some point, if you just added up his runtime or his screen time in these 4 seasons, it's probably astronomical, far and away more than everyone else. And he's done things we've never seen from villains, and that has to matter too.
I also think for longevity and also evolving with the movies, you can look at either Loki or Magneto.
Yeah, Magneto's another good one. Loki, but the transformation of Loki is him to hero, so it almost bumps him down too.
Yeah, but what if he shows up in another MCU property and the first thing that he says is psych?
And like, of course, we have now gotten Kingpin
Mischief.
in 3 seasons
Kingpin's
of Daredevil.
great. I love Kingpin.
He popped up in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And he's going to matter again in the new Daredevil series. So he has a legitimate argument towards the top, as much as I don't care for him. I think Kilgrave, had we gotten more of him, would have been incredible. But also, I guess maybe a little bit like the Joker. That one-off season was so amazing that you're almost better that it's just left alone.
And then also, since this is television, I'll also ask you, where does he rank, or not necessarily rank, but how does he compare to other television villains that we've seen?
So I do think that if we have no episode to do in the next week or two, we should just do this top 20 television villains. But you have to start with, I think, the 2 greatest shows ever, which are Breaking Bad and The Wire. And you know what? You might as well throw Better Call Saul as like an addendum on Breaking Bad. From that show, you have Gus Fring and Walter White, obviously. You could argue who's better, who's the greater villain. But those 2 are on the short list. And then the addition of Lalo Salamanca and Better Call Saul, that final season, he is fucking incredible. He gets up to essentially Gus level. So I would throw his hat in the mix there. From The Wire, you have Stringer Bell, who's fucking incredible, like a really not cold, but a really calculated businessman like a villain. You have Omar Little, who is almost an anti-hero because he's kind of taking out shitty villains, but also he's a pretty bad guy himself. And then the final couple seasons is predominating Marlo Stanfield, who I don't love him because he's extremely one note, but he is a really, really bad guy. So those are just 6 right there. I think Homelander is in the conversation with those, and those are 6 of the best ever. You also have Ben Linus from Lost, who was great. I think he doesn't hold the test of time as much because also that show got worse as it went on. One that I think maybe doesn't get mentioned as often, but the minute you think about John Lithgow as the Trinity Killer in Dexter, you're like, oh, fuck, yeah, he was fucking amazing. Another one that kind of goes under the radar because the show, I think, slipped in quality was Abu Nazir from Homeland. Those first couple seasons were incredible. Clay Morrow, played by Ron Perlman in Sons, was awesome as a villain. He was super, super easy to hate.
I know I swore off props, but you mean this John Lithgow?
Yes, exactly that. Yoda John Lithgow.
This is a Photoshop that I did. This took me 6 hours, and this is where I got John Lithgow Yoda.
Goose, season 1 of Heroes featured a villain named Siler, who was fucking awesome, but of course that show got substantially worse too. You have like the comedic ones like Toby from The Office, Jerry Jam from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, but
like,
I don't
those
consider those like you think of them, but like
those are like real life-ish villains, you
but
know,
those
the HR
ones,
guy.
Those ones also get a little long in the tooth too of like,
Yep,
all right,
for sure.
we get it, we get it, we get it.
I get
you
that.
know, those Newman.
Yeah.
And then like C. Montgomery Burns on The Simpsons, which is you know,
the
just
animated
over the
ones
top
are
being
so tough
like,
to compare.
yeah, just being a bad guy for being a bad guy. What's his name on Bob's Burgers? Jimmy Pesto.
Yeah. Like, would you call Cartman a villain? South Park? Like,
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so like it's hard to compare those against like the live action ones. But like the ones that I just named, I essentially named 15 without even including Homelander. So that could be a pretty good list we make. And also like I've never seen Game of Thrones. I've seen 3 episodes of the show. And obviously that show was full of villains. So that's another 2, 3, or 4 from that.
Yeah, so I think Thrones is actually pretty. It's not entirely similar because I think that Homelander, as they continue to give us more with his backstory and like how he grew up, you know, it does have you sympathize a little bit more with him. Whereas like I don't see any of the bad guys from Game of Thrones as like being redeemable at all. Like I think that Joffrey was just a complete piece of shit. I think that, and I'm blanking on his name, but the one that cut off Reek's dick was just a complete piece of shit.
Now here's because you've never seen The Wire. I've never seen Thrones.
Yeah.
I have The Wire, not really a step under Breaking Bad. The highs of Breaking Bad to me clear any television show ever made. You can argue it's a little bit of a slow start and whatnot. The Wire, I would say, in comparison, is the most well-written show ever made. It's so much more in depth than any other show I've ever seen. There's so many layers to that show. I obviously, again, can't speak to Thrones on that level, but how would you compare? Is Breaking Bad your number 1 drama of all time?
I think so, yeah.
Where does Thrones fit in underneath that?
Thrones deserves more credit in my mind. I haven't even watched the Dragon show yet because the way that they rushed through their final 2 seasons of being like, well, we don't care about this anymore. I'm like, well, then why should I care?
No, it's a good point, and I wonder how many. I'm sure this Dragon show is doing well.
It's doing gangbusters. It's doing fucking very well.
It kind of bothers me that people like don't take the stance that you took. Like, I don't want to be hurt by this X again that already fucked me over.
I need to get into like a real mindset to be ready to watch a serious television program again.
Yeah, that's true. That's for sure.
I'd rather just watch YouTube.
But again, like that's the beauty of these streaming shows. And again, I wish they released more episodes than they do. Like having to be locked in for the HBO 9 p.m. show sucks because you cannot go on Twitter until you've watched the show.
So also with like animated series, Shredder, Krang, any of the Spider-Man villains, Magneto on X-Men the animated series.
Yeah, like Magneto's a very good one because the crossover there from television.
I mean, X-Men 97, I wouldn't even consider him a villain. He was the best character.
So how would you, like, hypothetically, were we to do this list soon, would Magneto count as one, or would you rank all of the Magnetos?
Like from animated?
Well, let's say animated, and then you have Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender.
So are we doing villains in general? So villains, so comic book villains. So
all right. So I guess 2 of them wouldn't count if I'm talking television. But if you had to do comic book villains, would you do Magneto or would you do the individual Magnetos?
I think you just do Magneto. But if I had to pick one or the other, and I understand that Ian McKellen is probably perfect for the role, I'm just a Fassbender guy.
I agree with you there. Now, if we group that together, that will then have to hurt Joker's ranking.
No, because Jack Nicholson's Joker's great, and Jared
Oh, that's
Leto.
I was gonna say, was Jack the only other one?
Meow.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Magneto goes up, but the Joker would come down because it's just facts are facts.
I love Nicholson's Joker. I don't care what
I know
anyone
you
says.
do. Yes, I know you do.
Happy 35th anniversary to Batman 89.
Oh, how about that? It's the
Yeah.
same age as us.
Yep.
How about
June, whatever today's date is.
that?
Also, and I need to do this. I think before I get back into Game of Thrones or any of those shows, I might rewatch The Sopranos because I don't think I gave it enough attention the first time. Because every list that I look at is Livia Soprano, and
That's Tony's mother, right?
yeah, and I was too young when I watched.
Yeah, so I have never like really watched The Sopranos from beginning to end. So maybe that's the thing we do in the next
Yeah.
6 months. Watch The Sopranos and talk about it, because that is obviously on the short list of one of the greatest shows ever as well. But I would catch it like sporadically. It was my
Same.
uncle's favorite show,
Mhm.
and so I like always knew kind of what was going on. But I was fucking 10 years old. To like 15
Exactly, and
years
then
old,
I
so-
never like jumped back in as an adult.
Yeah, it just didn't stick the way it would if we were 35 in
Yeah.
2000. So maybe that's something we do for
One
this
might
year.
even question if I'm an adult now, if I have to wait 10 more years.
I will say though, if we are, but especially you,
Yeah.
if you're gonna watch The Sopranos, you should undertake The Wire as well.
I thought you said you have to watch it with your family. I'll tell you, what is that supposed to
The
mean?
Wire, 5 seasons. There's no bad season. I would argue season 5 is pretty unsatisfying, but it's also a very realistic show. And it's like, there shouldn't be a happy ending about, crime and murder in Baltimore. So,
All right, Mac. All right, Mac, before we get to your sack, can you also quickly get into The Acolyte?
yep. So The Acolyte, also 4 episodes in, 4 episodes left. The Star Wars fandom is absolutely crushing this show online. And it's not even like a vocal minority. It's a lot of people saying it's ruining canon. It's, why are you doing this? It's not supposed to do that. This show is set 80 to 100 years before the Skywalker saga. And I don't like, we have established canon. Yes. That does not mean that different people in a different part of the galaxy 100 years prior can't do certain things. Like, you can do anything in the Star Wars universe, essentially. We don't really know what the fucking Force can do. And every time they introduce new Force users, like especially like the Night Sisters in the Clone Wars, that was shit we had never seen before. And everyone was like, oh, no one complained about witches then. They introduced a new like sect of witches here. Now people are complaining. The main twins, the 2 main characters of this show, were essentially immaculately concepted with the Force, like Anakin Skywalker. People are mad about that. Like, why would Palpatine be the only person that would ever conceive an idea like that? There are other powerful Force users that have lived for hundreds of thousands of years that I'm sure have had similar fucking ideas.
We probably didn't need that in general for anybody, but
yeah, and it's just like they're pointing out what they think are plot holes, not realizing that this is a very wide galaxy with all sorts of possibilities, and like, all of the Force users aren't fully aware of all other Force users ever. So you can have stuff that happens 100 years later that they weren't aware that had happened previously. Like, it's not like someone's keeping notes of what fucking happened in the Force. The fandom
Dave
is just,
Filoni is, but that's fine.
yeah, sure. But I'm saying, like, users of the Force in Star Wars aren't always aware of what the fuck happened previously and what you can and can't do with the Force. It's insane that people are hating the show with lots of powers, lots of lightsabers, and a pretty cool mystery so far. I'm not saying it's a 40 dog level show, but it's like exactly what I want out of Star Wars. Lightsabers, Force users, and a fun little mystery. I'll watch this 10 out of 10 times. I am enjoying the heck out of it. We also have in this show, which I just think is cool, we have our first ever Wookiee Jedi, which is fucking fun. Like, they're doing fun things, and I genuinely do not know how people aren't enjoying it. It's insane to me. So the Star Wars fans are just fucking idiots. It's almost like, and I sort of did after The Last Jedi. I almost like want to renounce my fandom the way I did with the Red Sox after they traded Mookie Betts. Like, I'm still gonna watch and enjoy the Star Wars medias that I like. For example, I haven't watched the fucking spy show, whatever the hell it is that everyone wants us to watch.
Andor.
Star Wars fans can also do that. Just pick and choose. If you don't think you're gonna like the Acolyte, don't fucking watch it. I don't care. No one cares. So Star Wars fans are just the fucking worst. I don't want to be associated with any of them. That's all I got, Goo.
Oh, and not to get too far into this, but did you see this? We had this in News Dump last week that Dave Filoni has an open door policy if George Lucas ever wants to make another project.
If he's gonna be, well, they sort of both need no guys.
Well, yeah, but you are working for a company that will tell you no.
Yeah, but we don't want Disney being the no guy.
That is who the no guy is, though.
Dave Filoni cares too much about the minute stuff, and George Lucas has too big of ideas, and they're almost on opposite ends of the spectrum. They need someone to marry the two together. Now, they obviously work well together, but I'm saying, like, there's a reason you haven't watched the Clone Wars, and it's because it's 7 seasons, and about half of that can be cut out because it's all sorts of nonsense. There's a lot of droid stuff in the middle. Like, you can cut a lot of the fat out. Dave Filoni loves the fat. George Lucas loves just playing in the sandbox.
Let's get into Max.
And Max, that could be anything it could be about. And this week, it's cucumbers.
Cukes. As I talked about at the top of the show, I've been eating well for weeks, almost might be a month coming up this week, or 4 full weeks. But my go-to snack right now, it's quick, it's easy, it's healthy for the most part, is I'll chop up a nice cucumber, specifically for me, Goo, an English cucumber. Those are the longer, little skinnier ones. I feel like you just get more for your buck there, usually $1 a cuke. And I just like to sprinkle a little salt on them, and it's a perfect snack for me. Takes fucking 2 minutes. You can smash a whole cuke. It's low in calories. You're getting your veggies in for the day. It's a great snack.
It's also crazy how I think for my entire life, I have gone through pretty much cucumbers I've just been indifferent on. I just haven't cared.
Okay.
I don't hate them. I don't love them. And out of nowhere, I'm really into them. Really into cucumbers now.
I think if you're out there listening and enjoy cucumbers even a little bit, and you've never tried them with a little bit of salt on there, do that. It changes. It's a game changer. Also, cukes are really good for like dipping in hummus. Cucumbers and hummus is a great snack. Like, cukes are just fucking good. Cucumbers are far and away my favorite vegetable.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of, and I can't think of what the exact term is. It's the Greek salad, but it's olive oil, red wine, vinegar, salt, oregano, and tomato. Just stir that up.
Yeah, you basically just get that wet salad with the cukes and the tomatoes. Yeah, it's pretty good. Do you use cherry tomatoes or the real deal?
I try to use the real deal, but I need them to be real firm. If they're not firm, I can't do it.
Yeah, too much slop.
Yeah, I don't want slop.
No.
Mac, where can the people find us?
You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram, on X. Should I be calling it X these days? Yeah. On X and on Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. That's Mac ampersand Goo, Mac Shift 7 Goo. Oh no, I did it. I see, I'm all fucked up. A&D. Those two are A&D Goo Podcast. Every other platform is Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. More importantly, we're on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. Watertown Sportswear is on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com, merch. Are cucumbers just one of those things where, people say when you get older, you develop new taste buds? Is this what's happening to me?
Well, I think the great thing about the cucumber is it does have a nice faint taste. Cucumber waters are great. Have you ever had a cucumber flavored mixed drink?
I have,
Divine.
yes. Yeah.
Wonderfully delicious. But they also very easily accept the flavors you put on them. Like you were just talking with the little Greek salad. The salt, like it absorbs enough of the salt that it's not too salty going in your mouth. I don't know. I can't talk enough about cucumbers.
We're the cuke boys.
We are the hashtag Cuke Boys.
Cuke Boys. All right, so join us at the end of the week for a news dump. Thank you for listening this time. Tuesdays or Goose Days, I abuse kangaroos. Tim Barton.
Bye.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.